Welcome to Book Tease. I'm your host, Jamie, and this is the podcast that reminds you that even the mom next door likes her fiction filthy. We are in our Sizzling Summer series for July, and this book this week finally hits all the notes that I'm trying to hit. So, yes, I finished this one. Thank you very kindly. Y'all, let's be totally honest. If you've read this book, you know it is not something that requires deep thought. This book is one that you can drink wine and read it, and you're totally going to be fine. You're not going to miss any plot points when something fun happens at the beach and you look up. You're not going to miss any plot points if you get a little tipsy. You're going to just stay right in there and be able to consume this book very easily. It was a nice, easy read, and it was very spicy. But y'all, that's what we want for a good sizzling summer read, okay? As a reminder, this podcast does contain spoilers. I spoil the whole book, and I will spoil this one for you, babes. So if you haven't read the book and you want to before you listen to this, you might want to pause, read the book, and come back. This week's book is One Hot Italian Summer by Karina, Halle, and it is a standalone, and it is also on Kindle Unlimited. I love that. I love it. I love me some Kindle Unlimited. Let's get into it. I'm excited. I've got my lavender latte cocked and ready. So in this book, I'm going to tell you what, just off the top, it made me want to learn Italian. It made me want to drink espresso, and I did. I do. I have an espresso machine. This is a latte that I made, and it's fucking delicious. And it also made me want to drink some Pinot Grigio. Nice, cold Pinot Grigio out on the balcony. And, I'm planning to do that this weekend. I got some in my grocery cart ready to rock. I need me some Pinot Grigio after reading this book. Okay, yeah, let's get into it. So this book features Grace. She is a writer in her 30s, and her best friend just passed away. And this best friend was also a co-author with her for this cozy mystery series that she wrote, and they wrote it together. It sounds like one took one character, one took the other character, and they're partners in the book, solving all these mysteries. And so that's what they did, I guess. I don't know. But they wrote together. And so now she's finally deciding, okay, I need to branch off. I can't continue that series since she passed away and I'm in all my grief. I'm going to just branch off and write my own under my own name. And I'm going to turn my genre into women's fic instead of cozy mystery. It's going to be women's fiction. And in her brain, I'm guessing women's fiction equals depressing, because she's wanting to write. There's a little element of romance in the book that she has planned, that she has sold to her publisher, but she is wanting the book to be depressing. It doesn't have a happily ever after. It's just like drama, drama, drama everywhere. Her current agent, the one that she did with the mystery books with her bestie, Robin, dropped her after Robin passed. And she has it in her head that it's because she couldn't finish the mystery book. She is now marked as unreliable. She's adding all this pressure to herself to finish this other book. And the agent said it was out of grief, but this is what she's decided, that she has imposter syndrome, as most writers do. And I'm going to be honest, as a writer myself, yes, I do have imposter syndrome. So she is like, okay, I have a new agent now. And I'm very lucky to have this new agent because she is a badass, apparently. Her name is Jane, I think. And she's a badass agent. And she is really impersonal. And she is really unemotional. But she has taken her up, and she's putting a lot of faith into her, and she has sold this book that she's writing. Her agent sold the book that Grace is writing based on outline alone. This book's pacing is really kind of strange. Like, it just like dives head first, leap just whoo, into it. We learn all of that at the beginning of the first chapter. Her agent calls and is on her ass. Where's your book? What's the deadline? Like, you need to get on it. How much have you gotten? What's your problem? You know what? If you're having writer's block, and it could be that you're in dreary Scotland. Grace is Scottish, by the way. She lives in Edinburgh. Beautiful place. I've been there. Her agent's like, I have a house, a villa in Tuscany. You can use it for a month, but it's a writer's retreat. You have to get farther on your book, but maybe you need a change of pace. Maybe you need sunshine. Fair enough. So she's like, okay, go. So this chick, Grace, lands in Italy by the end of chapter 1. I mean, that's how far we dive. We're just like, boom. And we meet this very rude, kind of brash agent, and she shames her. She's like, fine, whatever, I'll do this for you. Blah. So now she's in Italy. Grace is introduced as a very introverted writer, doesn't have a lot of confidence in herself. She's Scottish. She is, like I said, introverted. She used to have a stuttering issue, like demure, right? Well, by mid-chapter 2, she's decided to take her clothes off, her whole bathing suit, and skinny dip in the swimming pool. Now, she is alone in this villa. However, this is not her house. This is, by all intents and purposes, to her mind, this is her agent's house that she's borrowing. And she does know that the Emilio, the keeper, the guy who drove her there from the airport, does stop in and out to take care of things, and that he is planning to come back that week. But she's like, okay, he said Thursday. Well, shit, he may decide to come early. I don't know. Someone else there might be a gardener. You don't fucking know. And you're going to take off your clothes and dive into the pool. But she's like, it's just the sunshine feels hedonistic. And so she does that. Well, she gets caught skinny dipping because this hot Italian man and his 9-year-old son show up, and they're just like, what are you doing? And the little boy's like, this is our pool. This is our house. You're an intrusa. So what are you doing? Turns out that this man is Claudio. It does explain. Like, he has this whole thing where he's like, my name isn't Claudio, it's Claudio. So anyway, Claudio is apparently her agent's ex-husband that nobody knows about. And the 9-year-old is her agent's son that nobody knows about. This woman lives in London. She is highly popular. She is a very well-respected agent. And literally no one knows that she has an ex-husband and a kid that live in Italy. So anyway, that happens. And Claudio is supposed to be on a vacation, and he takes a vacation every single month, which is why Grace had to be out by a certain time, but it ended up getting cut short and they've come home. I have to read this quote because I thought it was interesting, right? And so when she gets caught skinny dipping, she says, all I can do now is cover my breasts and cooch with my hands, staring at the stranger mouth open. Well, the language is a bit strange throughout the whole book, and this is an excellent example of that because we kind of bounce around from this poetic prose, like Italian is threaded in there, and it's descriptive, and it's like really flowery, pretty language, and then they throw in words like my cooch. And I'm just like, what is happening? Also, to show that the language is just a touch strange, we have a lot of Italian elements, right? It's set in Italy. Claudio and his son Vinny speak a lot of Italian. Other characters come throughout and they also speak Italian. So it's very obvious that there is a language thing going on, and that Claudio and his son have kind of an accent. They speak with a mix of Italian and English, and it's very, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. However, Grace is Scottish. But the only indication we get that she's Scottish at all is her use of I and ours. She doesn't speak with an accent, I guess, even though she is from Edinburgh. She grew up in Scotland. She currently lives there. We get no indication that she's lived anywhere else but in Scotland. But she doesn't have, we have no indication of an accent. She uses no other Scottish phrasing. In fact, she reads very American. She reads very, very American. But she just says I occasionally. So I don't know. It was really strange. That felt strange to me. So anyway, this is Claudio's family home. This isn't even her agent's home. She lost all rights to it in the divorce, but she just decided that, hey, I'm going to send my author to my ex-husband's home. I don't know. It made for a funny book, a good book. But yeah, it was just strange. Here's kind of the takeaways from their relationship. Claudio's hot. Claudio's Italian. Claudio can cook at a chef level. He and Jana were never in love. She got pregnant after a very brief, intense affair. And Claudio was like, I really would like you to have the baby. He's Catholic. So he had a lot of Catholic guilt there. So he's like, I want you to have the baby, marry me. Let's do right by this. And so they weren't even married for very long before Jane was like, I can't do this. Her name isn't Jane. I've been calling her Jane this whole time. Her name is Jana. Y'all, her name is Jana. She doesn't feature heavily in the book other than when eventually Claudio and Grace start, they've kind of got the forbidden element of, she's like, I can't hook up with him. That's my agent's ex-husband. It's girl code. Even though she's not even friends with Jana. This is just her very new agent who has been very brash and impersonal and has come off as very cold and unemotional. But no, girl code. I cannot sleep with him. So Jana's mentioned a lot, but she's mentioned as kind of the line that shouldn't be crossed, the stop sign for their relationship. Anyway, Claudio's very rich, and he is a sculptor, and he comes from a family of wealthy artists. His dad was a very wealthy artist. And anyway, he does decide that she can stay for the month, which is very kind of him. But he's like, the house is big enough. It shouldn't be an issue. My son's here. We're going to be kind of doing our own thing. However, I have a very strict schedule of food in which you must partake in? ? I don't know why she has to partake in his schedule, but he's like, breakfast is promptly at 9, and lunch is promptly at 3, and dinner is promptly at 8. Lunch is at 3? They're fucking starving by then, y'all. Anyway, she doesn't know how to work the espresso machine, and he doesn't seem to teach her, but he's like, breakfast is promptly at 9, and I will make you an espresso with my espresso machine, but I'll constantly apologize for the crema not being perfect on the espresso because I need to service the machine. I don't really understand that. She goes for it. She's like, okay, this is the schedule and you're cooking, so I'll show up. His relationship with his son is very odd to me. Speaking as a parent, there are times when it's very sweet. There are times when they seem in sync and he seems like a great dad, but then he also gets frustrated with him a lot and he cuts him off a lot, and he seems a little annoyed that his son is so into science. Vanny's a cool kid, or Vonnie. His name is Vonnie. He's a cool kid. His name is actually Giovanni, and they just call him Vonnie. He is super into science. He is into the space-time continuum and alternate timelines and things like that. And he's like, reads everything he can about it, and he likes to talk about it. He even has like a whole moment where he talks about, or he critiques the time travel elements in Outlander, in which case I'm going, why is a 9-year-old watching Outlander? It is such a rapey show. I mean, I don't think that's appropriate, especially given that these two adults act like the boy can't even go swimming in his own swimming pool without supervision, but you're going to let him watch Outlander? I do feel bad for him that his dad's a very moody artist, that his mom is an unemotional agent that lives in London, that he doesn't even get to see that often. So his dad's single dad, but he's also incredibly moody artist, and he goes off and he's like, don't interrupt me when I'm doing my own thing. So Vonnie has to just keep himself entertained half the time. And his dad's even like, oh, I hate when he's not in school because he likes to talk about all this science stuff and his brain needs constant stimulation and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so I don't know. That just kind of, it made me want to hug poor Vonnie. One thing with Vonnie, he does decide he's going to teach Grace Italian. He just decides, I'm going to teach her Italian. That's happening. Other than that, he just kind of does his own thing and isn't really a factor. Half the time they act like he's not even in the villa with them, except to note that he's trying to come up with stuff to talk about during dinner and getting cut off by his father. Nobody wants to hear about that. Like, well, no one wants to hear about your shit, sir, okay? He's always wanting to talk about his muse and the muse and blah, 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 which made for a sexy book. But at the same time, I'm like, he probably would have done better if he wasn't a dad, because it didn't soften him at all. This isn't a book I would feature as like a hot single dad situation, because if anything, I kind of feel like it took away from his sex appeal because he wasn't a doting father. It was just kind of like, he did say, my son means the world to me. My son is the most, but I mean, like, as far as actions, no, you're kind of giving off that your art is the most important thing. And God, you wax poetic about all your cars way more than you do about your kid. So I think they probably could have done a little better just not even having the kid there. As much as I really, really like Vonnie, he was the kid. His character had the most depth going on. But one thing that they needed the kid for, though, was to provide another reason why this relationship is doomed or forbidden. He's got a child. You live in Scotland. And he's very much, Vonnie is very much about, he doesn't want his dad dating. He has broken up him and every other girlfriend he's had before. And he talks about this alternate timeline that's happening with Gio, his other self. So his name's Giovanni. In this timeline, he's Vonnie, and his parents are divorced, and his dad's a very busy, moody artist. But in the other timeline, he goes by Gio, and his parents are not divorced. His mother's still an agent, but his dad does not have a job. He is just a doting father who's constantly there for him. And Gio's life is so much better, and this is the darker timeline, the one he lives in. He's constantly talking about this, and it's treated as just like a cute thing where his dad's like, oh, how's Gio doing? But I mean, my God, it sounds really sad. Like, he's finding this way to cope, and he's so into all these scientific theories and all this information about the space-time continuum and alternate timelines and whatnot as a coping mechanism for his broken family and the fact that both parents are borderline neglectful. It's just really, it's sad to me. They do eventually start a relationship. Of course they start a relationship, right? But they decide they're just not going to tell anyone, or they're definitely going to keep it a secret from Vonnie. But it is, okay, this kid's described as highly intelligent, right? They both have bonded over the fact that they're terrible liars. So they just cut Vonnie short and just assume that he's not going to figure it out when they're being super fucking obvious and literally everyone else is picking up on it. And they have talked about how they're terrible liars, but Vonnie, they're like, oh, he's a kid. He's not going to know. He's the one who figures it out and outs them to his mom. Just, spoiler alert, jumping to the end there. Anyway, let's get into the relationship. Let's get into the spiciness because it was a fun book. This line is hilarious to me, okay? This is Grace's inner dialogue. She's talking about Claudio, and she says, he ticks all my boxes. And that's not just a euphemism. He's handsome as hell, incredibly sexy, built like an athlete, ... It just goes on. So it's like, basically your entire list is apprised of different ways to say the man is sexy. That cracked me up. I was like, are we just talking about your like aesthetic checklist? Because that was so funny to me. Like I said, the book is not very complicated at all. They're both artists. She's a writer. He's a sculptor. And they're both currently struggling with their muses. This is mentioned throughout the whole book. Their muses. She's a bitch. The muse is a bitch. And she's so fickle. And so she's having writer's block. And so she comes to Italy to hopefully shake it loose. And she does. She does shake it loose. And she does start writing. She turns her whole book into a romance novel set in Italy. So she does that. And she doesn't want to tell her agent that she's doing that because she's worried that that's going to tip her agent off that she's banging her ex. I don't know. Anyway, his muse shakes loose because he has decided that Grace is his muse. She has such an interesting look. He wants to sculpt her. So he asks her, can I sculpt you? He asks her a couple times and finally she's like, sure. And then on her first session, sitting in to be sculpted, her first modeling session, they end up banging on the floor in some rose petals. It jumped into it. There wasn't even really a moment for consent. He just assumed consent. I didn't really care for that. It's like all of a sudden, boom, they're kissing. Boom, he's like on his knees, throwing her dress up over his head, going to town. And then he's bending her over the bench or the stool and just going off. And the only hint of consent is, does this feel good? And she's like, it does. And so he takes that as the green light. And I know she was modeling with some roses. They all fall to the floor, of course, when he starts going down on her. And so then her face is getting shoved into the floor into some rose petals that's getting stuck to her forehead. It was kind of awkward, man. It just was like, again, with the weird pacing and going from drag, leap, drag, leap. I don't know. I was trying to keep up. But anyway, after they break that barrier, they are fucking constantly. They're always having sex with the rule we can't sleep in each other's beds because what if Vonnie comes in? He doesn't like to knock on his dad's door. So be careful of that. He can't hear her. It doesn't sound like she's being quiet. So I don't know, man. I don't think they are keeping it a very easy secret here. Here's another funny thing. This man is obsessed with INXS. That's right, INXS. INXS, the 80s band, the one that sings the show me how you do that trick. The one that makes her scream, she said. That's the only song I could think of by them, even though so many other songs get mentioned in this book. We know for sure that song's by them, but he is obsessed with that band for whatever reason. And they even come to town, a concert comes to town, and he brings her to the concert. He brings her to a gallery showing. He brings her to Florence. He brings her to meet his parents. Whatever. He's bringing her all over the place. She's not actually getting any writing done, and then all of a sudden she has like a week of extreme creativity and writes most of the book. Anyway, when he brings her to Florence, Jana decides that she's going to Florence because she wants to check in on her. She wants to check in on how the book is going. And because we need something to, I guess we need some sort of conflict to shake it loose. She's going to show up. She wants to see Vonnie. She has another client to meet there. So she's like, okay, I'm going and I want to meet with you while I'm there. And I want to see my son while I'm there. Vonnie just casually outs them as someone like, oh, they're dating and they're in love. Pass the salt. It's basically how that goes. And they're all like, oh, he knows. I'm like, well, you've been fucking all over the villa and you've not exactly been hiding it well. And you've already told your parents. I mean, yeah, he figured it out. Anyway, Jana's pissed. And it's not because she has any love for Claudio. She's pissed as purely a pride thing. But she decides to not out or not cut Grace off or anything. She's like, apparently she's too profitable as a writer. Even though that seems like a big question mark. But anyway, that's basically the whole book. There's a lot of sex. It's very abrupt sex, very like spicy. He's very, I don't know. Anyway, it was a cute book. It was a lot of fun. He calls her his muse. He sculpts her. They even have like a whole ghost moment, like Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore situation where he's showing her how to model clay, and it's all very cute. This book was fluffy, and there was a lot of like drama elements. There was elements of grief and how do you deal with having a kid, and there was a lot of that in there, but there was also, it didn't feel like it got too deep. You know what I mean? Which I'm fine with, because again, I want to be able to sit poolside with a margarita and not have to get too into a thought process. I want to be able to just enjoy the book. And I think this was a great book for that. They get together, she moves to Tuscany, and they're engaged a year later, and apparently her book does really well. And she's at a book signing and he's taking pictures, and even Jana's there, and Jana becomes more, like everything ends on a happy note. Jana even becomes more invested in her son's life and tries to show up more for that. And she's a little less impersonal, and she's actually smiling and becoming friends with Grace. And so it all ends well, right? So I enjoyed it. I think this was a fun book. But I must be honest. Isn't that what I do? I'm totally honest. This was a fun book to read in the moment. This is a book that you can get away with drinking while you read it. This is, a very easy, light read. This is not a memorable one. This is not one that's going to spur any thought processes or make you say in like a month, like, I'm still thinking about this. Absolutely not. This book is a 3.5. It is an average read. It was good. It was entertaining. It was fun. It's a great book to just bring to the beach, bring on vacation. You don't have to get overly emotionally invested. It was a fun book. It is not one that I'm going to think about years from now. But that's kind of what you need, especially in summer for a sizzling summer read. It was right there. It was perfect for what I wanted. But I'm rating it a 3.5, and I'm rating the spice a 3 because it was good spice. There wasn't anything crazy, kinky, but it was good spice, and it was plentiful spice, and I'm not mad about it. So let's get on to some quotes, y'all. This is Claudio. I am going to pretend that last night I fucked a few brain cells loose so that you don't know what you are talking about. Excuse the fuck out of me, sir? Are you kidding right now? I did not like this about Claudio, is that sometimes he came off as a little conceited. He came off as a little, not misogynistic, but misogynistic light, I guess. But this is because she's like, I don't know if we need to continue this. I'm feeling bad about the fact that I fucked you, even though it was good because you have a son, and because of you're my agent's ex-husband, blah blah blah. And he's like, I guess I fucked some brain cells loose, because what are you talking about? She's talking about some completely reasonable reasons why this is probably a bad idea or should go anywhere further than just some vacation booty. Like, I feel like it makes sense what she's saying. And you're over here talking about I fucked brain cells loose. That's really rude, sir. But anyway, he also talks about fixing her a lot, which she does call him out on. And he's like, oh no, I was just saying like Clay. I'm just showing what's already there. I'm just helping you discover what's already in yourself. And I'm like, maybe she's already on her way to doing that without you. But if your magic dick's gonna help, sure. Here's a great one. And this is very Claudio. He says this kind of stuff constantly. Sí, la mia musa. But you do more than inspire me to work. You inspire me to make art out of you. I would like to sculpt you, Grace Harper. That's what I mean by the flowery language and the like, ooh la la. And then I covered my coochie. I can't. The pacing was weird in this book. The language was a little weird in this book, but it's still made for a fun read, and I'm glad I chose it. All right, this also is Claudio. You're mine, Grace, more than my muse, more than a lover. I've never felt this way before about anything or anyone, and I know that if you just trust me, if you give me your heart, I will carry it with me. And he goes on with this whole soliloquy about how she needs to give him her heart. And I have this note, and it's just a funny note considering they're both artists and she's a writer. They both suck at titling things, okay? She titles her book When Tomorrow Comes, which doesn't seem to go with anything that she's talking about the book being about. And so when he asks her, what does that mean? Her response is, I don't know, but it sounds good. And then apparently he names his sculpture of her after an Excess song because he's obsessed with an Excess. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. I'm sure In Excess can be your favorite band. Why not? This is coming from me, who I still rock Bon Jovi and will forever rock Bon Jovi. So, I mean, sure. But I don't know. In Excess is not my favorite. I can't think of more than one song by them. Also, apparently all writers are alcoholics. Just throwing that out there because in this book it is mentioned, it is talked about. He sets her sculpture in the bar area of the villa so she can guard the wine. I mean, she is always talking about how she loves alcohol, and all writers love alcohol. And I'm a writer, I'll take anything you got. And that just seemed funny to me. Let's move on to casting. Grace. I'm casting Katie McGrath. And I know that she is Irish, not Scottish, but she has the perfect aesthetic. Grace is described as having dark hair, very pale. He even says that she is like the marble before he begins working on it. She's just very pale complected, has a very interesting face. She says that she has a lemon face, which is weird. I think it's just saying that she has like not heart shape, but more like the chin is more pointed. I don't know. But anyway, Katie McGrath is gorgeous. She has very pale, beautiful skin. I could see how she could be someone's muse because she's beautiful and has a very interesting look. She is more polished than what Grace presents as, but she's a good actress, right? She can amp up her awkwardness for Grace. Why not? Katie McGrath's in Merlin, Supergirl, and Jurassic World. There you go. Claudio, Claudio, I'm casting an Italian man. In fact, this guy has only been in Italian films that I can tell. I don't even know if he knows English, and I don't care. I'm casting Simone Susina. Yeah, I had to look up how to pronounce his name, and I'm proud of myself. Simone Susina. And he is fucking hot. Okay? He is a very hot Italian man, very tall. He is like Claudio came to life, written right off the page. He's insanely beautiful. He looks like an Armani model. He looks like him. Like, I can't think of anyone else because he looks exactly, I'm going pure aesthetic on this one. He was in the Italian films 365 Days and Heaven and Hell. And again, not even sure if the man knows English, and I don't care. So, what a fun book. I enjoyed it, and I really wish I drank an entire bottle of Pinot Grigio whilst I read it, but I didn't. So I will remedy that this weekend. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate, review, subscribe, like, all the things. And until next time, stay spicy.
And that's it for this episode of Book Tease. Book and theme reveals and episode commentary can be found at TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at Book Tease Pod. Theme music is by The Scraps, and until next time, stay spicy.